Mic check, mic check. What's going on? Welcome into another episode of the KZ Community Beat. This episode is very special. It is part of our KZ Cares program, which is our commitment to shining a light on organizations making a real difference here locally in Peoria. Today, we're talking about something that affects more people than we often realize: abuse in many different forms. It's a hard topic, but it's one that we need to shed some light on. So today, joining me in the hot seat from the Center for Prevention of Abuse, their CEO, Carol Merna. Carol Merna, I had to make sure I said it the right way. Carol, thank you so much for joining us.
Ross, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being part of the KZ Cares program. A big shout out to Kelsey. She's the one who sent in the application. I reviewed it, and I recognized.
Pretty great. Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty great.
So as we get started with this, I think the first thing I would love to talk about is what is the core mission for the Center for Prevention of Abuse?
I'd love to tell you.
Come on now.
Center for Prevention of Abuse has been around for 50 years, so it's a pretty unique organization in the type of work that we do. The mission is to help all people live free from violence and abuse. So pretty simple. That mission has been the same for 50 years, and we don't plan on changing it anytime soon. Anyone's able to come to us that needs help, who is fleeing violence or abuse. If someone wants to receive an education, they're welcome to come to us, and we welcome them with open doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
You said 50 years you guys have been servicing the community?
We started as a rape crisis hotline in the 70s and have grown into the only agency in the state that has all the services we do under one roof.
So it's evolved a lot. So how has your organization exactly evolved to meet the growing needs of survivors here locally?
Well, there are so many people that are victimized by violence and abuse, and we know that from listening to the news. But there's so much that goes on behind closed doors that people don't realize, whether it's domestic violence, and we have 2 emergency shelters where we help people if they need emergency housing or with crisis intervention. We have a sexual assault and advocacy department where we have master's level therapists that provide therapy, but we also do medical advocacies and legal advocacies like orders of protection. We have an adult protective services department, which is elder abuse and abuse of adults living with disabilities and self-neglect. And we have a human trafficking services department, which is our newest department, but very busy. And most people don't realize the impact that human trafficking has across the world, but most certainly in Central Illinois. We've served about 300 clients so far, and 87% of them are from right here in Central Illinois. But one of our shining stars is our prevention education department. That's our last core responsibility, and that's where we try to stop abuse before it starts. We're in over 140 different schools, and last year we reached almost 42,000 students on lessons like healthy relationships and peaceful conflict resolution, anti-bullying. We have a human trafficking curriculum so we can tell kids about it because they're extra vulnerable. But body safety is a big part of that, too. We want kids to understand what a healthy touch is and what an unhealthy touch is. So we have well-rounded services that we are delighted to be able to talk about with you. But we serve about 6,000 people a year in Central Illinois. And
has that number grown a lot over the last 5 to 6 years?
I have been there for 10 years, and we used to say 5,000. Now we say 6,000. And I don't attribute that necessarily to there being more abuse. Abuse is big. It always has been. But I like the fact that our message is getting out. People are finding their voice.
Yeah.
People are reporting. People are looking for us. And we want more people to look for us.
Well, it's like abuse has been around since we can think
Beginning of time.
I mean, there was a big TV show when I was growing up that I would watch on Me TV, which was The Honeymooners.
Yes.
One of these days, Alice.
To the moon, Alice.
And back then, that's something that we would
Right.
crack jokes about and jovially would make us laugh, but we didn't really understand the semantics of that.
Right.
So, media does play a role of kind of making humor out of certain situations.
Right.
But as we talk about abuse, what are the different forms, different styles, and different perceptions that abuse can come across that we may not be aware of?
Well, speaking to the Honeymooners thing, there's been a giant cultural shift over time. So if that show made in the 60s or 50s, and I remember it being aired when my parents were watching reruns of it. Funny show, Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
But that cultural shift really happened in the 70s when we started with that rape crisis hotline. People started to understand the long-lasting effects in the trauma that was caused by what might have been seen as, oh, well, that happens in their house and we don't talk about it. But abuse comes in a lot of different forms. It's physical. It's those bruises. It's the burns. It's the bite marks. It can be sexual. Sexual violence is big. It happens every 68 seconds in America, including in Central Illinois. 3 years ago, I could say 98 seconds. It's now 68 seconds. It could be sexual. It can be verbal. Verbal abuse is very real. And it can be psychological. People have heard of gaslighting.
Yeah.
If people have mental manipulation, and human trafficking involves a tremendous amount of mental manipulation. But those are the main types of abuse that we see. But it's a pattern of power and control that is exerted over someone who falls victim, that may be vulnerable. And it may be somebody that it's in what is perceived to be a loving relationship. But deep down, if there's abuse involved, it's an unhealthy love. There's nothing good about it. So we work with people to help discover what their potential is, that there are options for them, that there are people that care for them and believe them, and hopefully it makes a difference. Everybody that comes to the center, it's their choice what happens next. So we're client-centered. We try to be trauma-informed and understand what's happened to them. But we want to make sure we're doing what the client wants. And if they finally come to the realization that they're in a bad situation, we want to help them find a way out of it and find some healing.
Have you seen commonality, at least, of individuals who may not be immediately prepared to come forward about things?
Oh.
Like, what have you seen with individuals that is that tipping point where, like, oh no, I do need some help?
Well, it's different for everybody. And, it's just as different as maybe you and I are, because everybody has a different outlook, but everybody has a different partner. And I told the story a couple of years ago that we're in the cheap seats when we're looking at somebody who's in an abusive situation. We have a faraway view, so we really aren't experiencing what they're experiencing. And they could be scared of leaving because there's no finances in their name. They have no money, so they could be running to poverty. They might be afraid of losing their children or having a connection to their children. They might be fearful for their life because when someone leaves an abusive situation, the 2 weeks surrounding that time of leaving is the most dangerous time in their life.
How
If
so?
someone is going to be murdered, that is the most likely time that they will be. Because the person that is exerting that power and control that is about abuse is going to be afraid of losing that power and control. So we see that happen. We see that people are very fearful when they flee, but that's why we have emergency shelter. That's why we're there for them to safety plan and help them find whatever that pathway is for them. On average, people leave an abusive situation 7 to 8 times before they finally come to terms with it. It's that hard to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the fear of it, I use the analogy of if you are with an abusive person, it's like swimming with a shark.
Yes.
As long as you can see the fin, you know how far it is away. You know the distance that you've got. But as soon as that fin drops below the water and you have no idea where it's going to come from, that fear becomes palpable. And that's what it's like for someone that leaves a situation. They don't know where it's going to come out of, and it's frightening. They're running to situations that are unknown, and sometimes people will just put up with the abuse to not have to do that. We don't encourage that. We want people to find that independence. We want to help keep them safe, but fact is, it's a really hard thing to do. It takes a lot of courage.
Now, we're talking with the CEO of the Center for Prevention of Abuse, Carol, right here. Before we get into early warning sign detections, can we give the crisis hotline out in case anybody needs to just...
You betcha.
Yeah.
100%. Crisis hotline is 1-800-559-SAFE or 7233. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it will be answered by a human being in Peoria. And they will walk you through whatever you need to be walked through.
Now, let's talk about key warning signs of domestic violence, human trafficking, also,
Okay.
and elder abuse. Those three things that we have mentioned. What are some early signs for individuals who may be on the outside of it, just seeing a neighbor or a friend
Sure.
or a family member go through something?
It could be there's a domineering person that is isolating the person being abused. Isolation is a big part of force. That's a definition under human trafficking. So when somebody is isolated and kept away from family and friends, they are often led to believe that nobody cares for you except for me, and there is no one to run to. So that isolation is a big part of it. So if somebody is suddenly missing from your life and you can't really reach them, that's a big warning sign. It's a red flag. But we also look for the outward signs. You can see the physical signs of abuse when someone has been hit and there are bruises, the bite marks, the burns, a broken arm. Those sort of things happen, and we see it on the regular. We have seen so many different forms of physical abuse, some extremely severe, that have come into our emergency shelter. That physical abuse is often the easiest way to figure out something's going on. But it could be a disruption in sleep. It could be somebody's attitude has changed dramatically. It could be that someone never has any funds to be able to go for coffee, because usually they're isolated from the finances. If a child is involved, it could be that they've become very cranky. It could be that that disruption in their sleep pattern is big. It could be that their change in eating habits is there. It's that big change in what you're used to that are all warning signs. And on the Center for Prevention of Abuse website, which is centerforpreventionofabuse.org, there's a section that says, I'm looking for help for someone else. And it gives those indicators, but it also gives some help with what to say to somebody in private, certainly not in front of the person that you believe might be abusive. But if you have the opportunity to be in private, I care about you.
Yeah.
I got a place for you to call. Let me help you get a hold of them.
It's providing the comfort and the trust and the safe space where you may not feel you're in the opportunity to actually be vulnerable, but you're providing that community for them.
Being in control is something that people who are abused, they don't have that luxury. So that's why we're so client-centered. But we want other people to give people the opportunity to seek peace, too, and to say, I care about you. Let me help you. Let me get you to a place that has trained professionals. And it doesn't cost a dime. Everything that we do for survivors is 100% free of charge and 100% confidential.
Let me ask you this. We've just talked about the early warning detection signs for someone that is going through abuse. But on the opposite side of the coin, as we're looking outside into a relationship, are there early warning detection signs, red flags to see, ooh, that partner might be abusive in some way?
It's really the same because the pattern, it can escalate over time. But when people are domineering, and I'll talk about human trafficking because it is very much a form of abuse. When someone is domineering a conversation, they will not allow the other person to speak. Or if the other person speaks in what is perceived as a script, that's the same in domestic violence.
By script, what do you mean by script?
Here's what you're going to say if they ask you this question.
Oh,
And
that's a
you're
thing?
like, oh, that's a thing.
Because
It's a
I've
thing.
seen when I'm out where couples will be arguing, like, that's not what we talked about. Or not right now. Very dismissive stuff. And sometimes I won't lie, I'll be like, oh, okay, so he's an asshole. But like
Yeah.
as I got a little bit older, I started seeing, oh, hold on. That's not how I treat my partners. That's not how I see my parents get treated. Okay, it's not as okay, and we're gonna pass through it. Like I can admit my fault of not understanding those early signs.
I don't connect with that either, but that's not always necessarily the type of abuse that I would say would. It might trigger that initial thought, so you would look for other signs that would go with it. But yeah, it can be perceived as somebody being a jerk and not necessarily abusive. Maybe they're having a bad day, but never discount the possibility. And if you get really concerned about a friend or a family member, by all means, if you're not afraid to approach them in private and ask the question of, do you need help? Let me help you. Do that. But if you want some guidance on how to go about that, if you're not quite comfortable with it, give us a call. We have somebody that'll talk to you about it.
So let's talk through it right now. How would you advise somebody? Let's say I have a friend right now who is I have the warning signs and I'm there and I can see it and I know it, right? How would I go about having that conversation with a friend? Like, how do I create that connection and that vulnerability and that safeness where I'd be like, hey, can we talk real quick without putting you on defense?
There's two things that are really important. You want to be an active listener, so don't domineer the conversation yourself, which some people, you can't help it. You get nervous and you ramble, but you really want to listen to this person. Give them the opportunity to tell you what they want to tell you and believe them. Some things may be hard to believe, but believe them because there's no need to make this up. So, the beauty of the Center for Prevention of Abuse is we have so many intelligent and caring and giving staff. We have 150 staff in 6 different locations that if you call, we're going to connect you with one of these professionals that might be a licensed social worker, most definitely a counselor, to be able to talk you through this and your specific situation to be able to guide you on that help. But you can visit the website first, take a look at what those prompts are and see. But listening is so important because nobody else is listening to them. I promise.
You guys do really good work with just providing that safe space for someone who doesn't feel
Right.
like they have it. Now, what are some other areas that you build trust and offer support to those in need?
One of the first things we do with people when they come to the Center for Prevention of Abuse is we safety plan. And safety planning hopefully does build trust because we help people understand, if you're at home and there's a danger of being harmed, what's the safest room in your house? We encourage people to go through the thinking process. And it's a different safety plan depending upon what everybody's circumstances are. My sister, for example, lives in a rural, very rural community. So it's different for her than it would be somebody living in inner city Peoria. It's different for somebody in the military. It's different for somebody who's disabled. But to really talk to somebody about, we need you to think about the safe people in your life. Who can you signal? Who can you approach? Do you have a phone that isn't controlled by your abuser? So we put people through these thought processes and then really listen to their responses. Hopefully that's planted a seed. It started to build the trust. And then if somebody wants to carry it further and they want to continue on with their counseling or go into therapy, then we're going to talk to you about the root cause of your trauma. We're going to talk to you about what do you need. Do you need to find a job? Do you need childcare? Do you need a place to go? What is it that we can help you achieve so that you're able to achieve? So it's that trust building is really important because why would they trust complete strangers? But we are there for a reason. And our team is really good at what they do.
Over 50 years of building a community.
I work with superheroes all day, every day.
Yeah. When you think about it, you see some horrible situations, to say it kindly.
Yep.
You see people at probably their worst point in time going through horrible situations, very vulnerable, and you're building a community.
You think about the number of people, and this is a national statistic. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence at the hands of an intimate partner. 1 in 4 men. And we do serve men. Abuse does not discriminate. Abuse is across the board. And we welcome every age, every race, every gender identity, every age. You name it, we're going to help serve you if you're experiencing abuse. But those numbers can be staggering. We look at human trafficking. 1 in 3 victims is a minor or a child. And so many people in Central Illinois are caught up in what's called the life. Just to be able to have the opportunity to help another human being find some peace is an honor.
Does it ever drain you almost to see this amount of it happening consistently? Because you said we went from, was it 5 seconds to 4 seconds?
We went from 98 seconds to every 68 seconds for sexual violence in America. So, it's an underreported crime, as is a lot of abuse. But is it draining for me? No, because I run on the fuel that, from what I see inside of our agency. And I probably have the easiest job. I get to come talk to you. I get to promote our programs. I get to raise money to try to make sure that we have the opportunity to continue. But the people that actually listen to people and touch people's lives in therapy and in counseling, and the people that are guests in our shelters. We can house 36 guests in Peoria, 16 in Pekin. We're going to build a new shelter in Pekin so we can see more people because our shelters are always 100% full. But the work that I see our team do day in and day out, I can't even describe it in any other way except for heartwarming. So why would I ever be tired? Because they do such hard work, and they do it so well. Now, we try to have a great culture, and we look for people that are going to appreciate the culture that we offer. You're not supposed to necessarily say that we're like family, but we care for you like family. We also offer therapy for our staff outside of our agency. If you feel that you need that type of assistance in your life, amen, let's go do it. And we never know a name. We just get a bill and we make sure that it's paid so they can continue on with that. But abuse is a dark topic. Yeah, it's a hard topic, but it is in many people's hearts to do this work. And I am very fortunate to be able to be around so many of them.
It takes a village to do what you guys do, and it's amazing that you even provide the in-house therapy for those going through it and providing the services. The community you built in the 50 years, it's amazing. You guys are doing amazing work. How can the larger community of Peoria, Pekin, Morden, how can we all do a better job, be more proactive in helping with the cause of preventing abuse?
Positive word of mouth for us is crucial. I like to invite many people in for a tour to remove the mystery of what's behind the front door at our campus, because people have this preconceived notion or a stigma attached to the idea of abuse. We are the hope side. It is a lovely and hopeful and very caring place to see and to see everybody in action. So I welcome people to reach out to us to learn more with that positive word of mouth of not being afraid to tell people to reach out to us if they think that it's important, or if somebody is looking for a place to connect because they want to connect with a charity and donate and support. We're here, and we're all about receiving support from people. There is nothing better than grassroots support. And we are super thankful for the Central Illinois communities and the support that we have. We have people that do a tremendous task to be able to offer us support year after year after year. We are also funded by the state and federal government, which the state is stable at the moment. They weren't a few years ago when we were going through a state budget crisis. Yeah. But now the federal government is topsy-turvy with federal funding, and that's an uncertain part of our budget, and 22% of our funding is from the federal government. 100% of our elder abuse work, working with seniors, working with people living with disabilities, is funded by the federal government, and it's at risk. So we are always looking for more people to join in and to be partners in peace with us.
How do you process that internally with the uncertainty of what may or may not come within the next 4 to 5 months?
So, that the initial shock is something that you have to let settle. We never act irrationally. Now, fortunately, we are in good financial shape. So if something happened tomorrow, we're going to be okay for a while. But we're also going to communicate the situation so people will know that they have an opportunity to help support what affects their friends, their family, their neighbors, their colleagues. Everybody knows somebody that's affected by abuse. So we always like to give people the opportunity to give us support. But we will be communicating if we feel that, the federal government's current situation in regards to federal funding is going to be prolonged and affect the Center for Prevention of Abuse in an adverse way. We don't know that yet. It's just the uncertainty that's a little unnerving. But you know what? We stay strong because of the impact we provide. Yeah. We know how powerful it is. We know how important it is. and we plan to be around. We don't intend to go anywhere.
I mean, we understand the value that your organization
Right.
brings.
Thank
I mean, in 50 years, the growth that you've had with launching new programs throughout the years, which we'll touch on right now. Let's go through the specific programs you have and what roles they play in the overall message that you have. And if anybody would like to reach out to be a part of the programs or seek the assistance that you provide, we'll also provide that too.
So we have our largest department, which is Domestic Violence Family-Centered Services. So men, women, children, age doesn't make any difference. We are happy to receive people that are fleeing violence and abuse. We have 2 emergency shelters for survivors of domestic violence, one in Peoria, one in Pekin. And we offer counseling. We offer crisis intervention with that crisis hotline, 1-800-559-SAFE. And it's, again, they're available 24 hours a day in that department. There is no downtime. We are always available to help receive people that need help. For sexual assault and sexual abuse, that encompasses our therapy department. But there are so many victims of sexual violence that carry it with them for the rest of their lives. It's a very small percentage of survivors that reach out for help. But when you can receive trauma-informed therapy about what's happened to you, when we can help you process the extraordinary situation that you've endured, the crime that you've endured, it is never your fault. Sexual violence is never the fault of the victim. It doesn't matter what you were wearing. It doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't matter who you were with. It doesn't matter if you had a drink in your hand. It's never, ever your fault. So it's our job to work with people to process that and hopefully find some healing from it. Our Adult Protective Services Department is, again, it's elder abuse and abuse of adults living with disabilities and also self-neglect. For adults 59 and older, that is considered to be elder abuse. And it can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be physical. And we have staff that receive phone calls, and it could be from a bank, it could be from zoning department, it could be from a family member or a neighbor, and they allege abuse. And always within 7 days, but usually within 24 hours, we have casework staff that will go to that person that is allegedly abused. And we will plant the seed with them. If they tell us to get off their lawn, we're going to get off their lawn because nobody's required to receive our services. But we want to make sure that they know that we're here for you, and here's what we were told, and we want to be as helpful as we possibly can. And then we will always check back with them and try to build a relationship, and hopefully they're going to reach back to us and let us know that they're ready to be helped. But that's a biggie. That's a biggie. Our medical advocacies are when somebody presents at the hospital because of sexual assault or elder abuse or domestic violence or human trafficking. We have 20 medical advocates who are very well trained to go and be with that person in the emergency department. We're one of the first phone calls that the hospital makes because
as soon as they have a sign of something, they
will call us, and we will send a medical advocate. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas morning, if it's the middle of the workday, we're going, and we're going to be with that person in the emergency department as long as they're there, and we're going to do whatever it is that they would have us do. It might be hold my hand. It might be leave me alone. It might be would you call my mom? It might be tell me what's going to happen next. And we have a change of clothes for them because they might have to leave their clothes for evidence. But that support is immense. We do orders of protection in 3 offices in the Peoria, Tazewell, and Woodford County courthouses. And last year it was about 2,600 orders of protection that we helped people obtain. We offer guidance. We help them with the paperwork. We're not an attorney for this sort of situation, but we can help walk you through what you're going to go through. And usually it's an emergency order of protection. And then hopefully if it warrants, then they come back for a long-term order of protection or a plenary order. And human trafficking is our newest department, opened in 2018. And we not only serve survivors, but we provide a tremendous amount of education because it is such a unknown for people to think about human trafficking. It's when somebody is forced, frauded, or coerced into doing something that benefits somebody else. They're exploited. They have their freedom stolen for someone else's profit. It can be panhandlers that we see on the corner with a sign. It can be door-to-door sales. It can be sex trafficking. It can be labor trafficking. It can be domestic servitude. It could be an illicit massage facility. It involves people who are typically mentally manipulated and exploited that is benefiting someone else. Now, the difference between human trafficking and something like domestic violence, where domestic violence is about power and control, human trafficking is about greed. Yes, there's power and control because they want to have power and control over this person they believe to be their product. But it's about making the almighty dollar. It's the second largest crime in the world. It affects millions of people, and it's just as profitable as Walmart and Apple.
You know, the older I've gotten, the more I've just come to really realize there's a lot of evil in this world, but there's a lot of good that combats it.
There's so much more hope,
Yeah.
and goodness, and when people are willing to share that hope and goodness, it counterbalances. You know, that what drives out darkness
It's light.
is light.
You know, as I got older, there's one thing I didn't realize was so common with nightlife and people going out: roofing. Like, that's a big thing. It got, like, at first I remember some of my friends would be like, hey, watch my drink. Watch it. All right, cool. And I remember one time we caught a guy that did it.
You bet.
Oh, we told security everything. He got his ass beat. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. But how common is something like that?
Well, I recently had a phone call from a woman whose nephew was at a bar, and he was approached by a beautiful young girl that expressed tremendously intense interest in him. Now, ultimately, it was believed she was trying to engage him and bring him into a human trafficking situation, but there were date rape drugs involved, and the bartenders caught her, and she had 2 accomplices in the bar with her.
Yo.
So it is frightening. What we need to be very good bystanders to watch out for our fellow human beings. When we see something, we need to say something, and we need to trust our gut.
Yeah.
You got a bad feeling in your stomach, the hair on the back of your neck is standing up, and you see something that, wow, that looks wrong, then be that positive bystander, be that upstander.
Yeah.
To do the right thing and hopefully save somebody. I have people that when I'm doing a human trafficking training, and I had this said to me last week, we were talking about making a phone call if you see something you think is wrong. And they said, oh, but it could be embarrassing. What if it's not? I said, but oh, what if it is? And think about that person that you might have saved them a tremendous amount of trauma. You might have saved their life just by making that phone call.
Yeah.
So run the risk. And in human trafficking, you can call a toll-free number, and they're going to triage the situation for you. You typically don't have to embarrass yourself. You are doing the right thing when you're making a phone call.
You know, just to put more personal experience into this, me and my group of friends about 1.5 years ago, we were at a bar here locally in town. Me and my friend and his wife were there. His wife went to go play darts. Me and him were drinking at the bar. And this dude comes by. He looks a little lonely. We start talking, ham-hocking it up. I do not pay attention for 1 second. Someone gets my attention, goes like that, but I have my drink in my hand. My friend also does not pay attention. Within about 20, 30 minutes, it's a switch. Like, you could just see he starts getting slurring more. And I'm like, he's not drunk. Like, we're on the same pace. And the next day, he just, man, I was fuzzy. I don't remember all this. And it happens in that small blink. And we were around him. And luckily, we got him home. Everything was fine. But it happens in a lot of situations where it's not. Are there any suggestions you have in case someone is out and they feel like that may be happening?
Sure.
What should they do in that moment?
You know, there's a very, really good resource on the RAIN, which is the Rape Intervention, RAINN.org. And it is a whole section about helping someone in a bar situation, whether it's somebody headed towards a sexual assault situation or someone that is, just who knows what's going to happen if they have something put in their drink. It could be a lot of different things these days. So it's a really good resource. But it's about being unafraid to speak up. Bartenders are all supposed to be trained on this. So you can do that, but you can also call local law enforcement, call 911. You know, when you believe somebody's in imminent danger, no matter what type of abuse it is, 911 is your best friend.
Yes.
Always. Call that local law enforcement number. Or in Peoria County, you can text 911.
I didn't know that.
Which is awesome. Yes. And I live in Fulton County. You can do it in Fulton County too now.
Okay.
So just being able to reach out and say, I've seen this. This is where I am. This is who this has happened to. This is the time. This is the date. This is what they're wearing. And then by all means, somebody's going to come check it out. They have to. That's the way it works.
It can be a very cruel world when you look at it, but organizations and people like yourself who go above and beyond to not only do the effort but also to educate our community on how to help community members when they're in vulnerable situations is important. I mean, that is one of the big reasons why we chose you for the KZ Cares program, because of the work you do and because of the heart on the sleeve that you have and how important this is to get out there. You do have an event coming up. Am I correct?
We do. We have during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is the month of April. And we've been doing this 5K run walk called I Run With Survivors for about, is it 6 years, I think, that we've been doing it. It's in the Levy District in East Peoria. This year it's April 12th, 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's a fundraiser as much as it is anything to do with raising funds. But we want more people to be aware that sexual violence is a very real issue. So we want people to come together. But it's also a great way to honor people who have survived something that might be the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So we honor survivors every day. But during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we're really vocal about it. And we would encourage people to go to our website at the Center for Prevention of Abuse and sign up to join us on April 12th. It's a great time. You get a T-shirt. You can bring your dog. You can bring a stroller. I'll be standing along the side and clapping. My husband will be walking. So it's a nice day to be able to get out and show some support.
This podcast will be launching on April 1st. We're pre-recording last week of March. So as you're hearing this, how long do you have until you can sign up for that?
You can sign up on race day if you want to.
Day of, you can just walk
Day
up.
of, and it's $35, which includes your T-shirt and some other goodies that go along with it that have the Center for Prevention of Abuse name. But it's really just about getting out and showing support to those that we have a lot of survivors that participate. So when they see everybody come out in their teal T-shirt, that fills their heart to know that there are this many people out here that really support us. I like to not use the word nonprofit as much as I can, because we are a high-impact human service organization.
Okay.
The impact we bring, not only in Central Illinois, but a wider area for some of our issues that we cover, is tremendous. And I am unafraid to say that because I see it every day. So we are grateful to the community that supports us, and we look forward to having more people, as a result of this conversation, join us as well.
I hope to, too. I hope that we're able to use this month's spotlight to really push the message as much as possible. If there's, like I said off mic, I'll say on mic again, if there's anything you want me to share on social media and digitals throughout this month,
great,
by all means. You have my email, you have my number. Send it. We'll make sure we put it out there. We'll tag your social media. This new program, KZ Cares, is to use our resources to spotlight organizations, high-impact organizations, as you say, that do great work, and something like this is very vital. It pains my heart as much as, because I've had friends who have gone through this. I've dated women who express certain journeys to me that I don't want to make public, and in those moments, it's difficult for me to really understand, like, hey, I haven't gone through certain things. So the resource you have for instruction and teaching, how can we also go about getting a part of those programs?
Go to centerforpreventionofabuse.org, and it's easily navigable, where you'll be able to see I'm looking for help for someone else, or if you're looking for help for yourself, there's a section for that too. And then it's divided by all of our departments. If you've got a specific department you're interested in, you want a training about human trafficking, you want to learn more about domestic violence so you can really determine if the person you're concerned about might be wrapped up in that. Whatever the situation is, reach out to us and we're going to be happy to talk to you. Our prevention education department, if you've got little kids that you are really concerned about making sure that, one, they know how to cross the street safely, but do they understand what safe touch is? Body safety is really important.
Yeah.
We can walk you through that. We actually have a story that we wrote in-house and we wrote and illustrated in-house, but we animated it last year.
Really?
And it's on our website. So we've got a cartoon called Sis and Me Down by the Sea, and it's about body safety for children.
Might be something I can share for you guys.
So by all means, if you have a need involving violence or abuse, prevention education, trainings, reach out to us. We're going to be there for you.
All right. I like what you have to do. Let me see what else I have left here. If you could leave our listeners with one powerful message about the importance of prevention and intervention, what would that message be?
So I would want everyone listening who has been a victim of abuse or knows someone who has to know that we are here even when it's hard to talk. So we want people to call our crisis hotline at 1-800-559-7233 and know that we believe you and we care about you and we're here for you.
Before we end, is there anything left that we did not cover that you wish our audience knows about?
Well, let me just say thank you to you, because having this sort of format to be able to share the good word about what's available is very important to us, and we don't take it lightly. So we appreciate you, Ross, and we appreciate the KZ Cares program.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I really do respect the work you guys all do there, and it is very important. Last question I always like to ask, but I'll change up the format of it, is, these episodes are stories. It was based off the Human Library, where you would sit somebody down at a desk with one word, describe their entire journey. And it was the art of conversation and dialogue, which has kind of been lost over our years. So every story has a gold nugget. So what is the gold nugget for the center? What's the gold nugget you want people to know about you?
We lead with soul.
Ooh.
I had a long time ago, I used to do interviews that involved kids, and I would always ask, what do you think your leadership style is? And ultimately I decided, if I'm going to ask that question, I better get my own definition of what I think my leadership style is. I'm not perfect. I aspire to lead with soul, but I promise you our team at the Center for Prevention of Abuse is one soulful bunch that cares deeply and moves swiftly to help people.
50 years is a long time to do what you do.
50 years, and hopefully 50 plus more.
And to grow within those 50 years. Yeah. To find more avenues to help. It feels like you guys are just getting started on what you're able to do here in Peoria.
We need to be in solid footing in case we find another area like human trafficking that we need to encompass in the work that we do. We're going to be ready, and we're going to be ready to make a difference with it, just like we are with human trafficking and domestic violence.
All right. With that being said, this has been an incredibly important conversation and another episode of the KZ Community Beat. Our April Spotlight, we are spotlighting the Center for Prevention of Abuse here locally in Peoria. There's been my guest, the CEO, Carol Merna, and also for everybody at the center, thank you for all the work you do every single day here locally. If you know someone that is in need of help, please do not hesitate to reach out. Do not wait. You can find resources, support, and ways to get involved at, what's your website one more time?
centerforpreventionofabuse.org.
And if you need the hotline, what is the hotline number?
1-800-559-SAFE or 7233.
I think Carol and I can agree on this sentence here. No one should have to face abuse alone. And there are ways forward, and
Amen.
They're here for you.
Always.
As a community, we have the power to stand up, speak out, and support those in need. So let's be the change. You're listening to KZ 102.3's Community Beats. Our spotlight for April has now begun. If you know anybody that is in need, Carol, one more time, that number.
1-800-559-SAFE, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.